Vendors are the businesses or individuals you purchase goods and/or services from. In this session, we're going to be looking at the Email Print tab in the Vendors detail. So let's go to our Vendors list under Setup and Vendors. And if you have vendors and customers on your Setup list, that indicates you're using the CenterPoint Accounts Receivable module. So we're going to open up our Vendors list and edit one of our vendors. And today we're going to be talking about the Email Print tab. In CenterPoint, several of the forms allow you to email or print any of the forms that are indicated here. And the different forms that we see here depend upon the different modules that you own in CenterPoint. For example, if you own the Sales Orders module, you'll have that column. If you have Purchase Orders, you'll have this column. In the case of vendors, you may want to email the purchase order instead of printing it. Or if you've made an agreement with that vendor to do an ACH payment, you may want to email the check advice when you do the ACH payment. This is where we would set up the email information for the vendor. So we can click in the vendor name and enter this vendor's name that we want to show up and the vendor's email address. And we'll just put in an email address here. And then we go over to the form that we want to use an email for and click the down arrow, and the options are no email, send to, send a carbon copy, or send a blind carbon copy. So in this case, we're going to do send to. So when we do a purchase order and it indicates that we're emailing, it's going to be using this email address to send that form, and it would attach a PDF of the purchase order to an email to this person. Now you can have as many email addresses in any one vendor as needed. So if there were a different person in this company that should get the check advice, then you can have another line for that person and their email address, and then set the check advice to sending an email. In this case, we're just going to do send to for both the purchase order and the check advice for Jake. You may also want to add your name in here if you want a blind carbon copy of all the different emails that you're sending out to vendors. So I might put my name in here and my email address and put in here that I want a blind carbon copy, and perhaps on both of those. And that would send me a copy as well as this vendor. Down at the bottom of the screen are our print options. So if we wanted to, instead of emailing, we wanted to print, or maybe we want to do both, print and send an email, we can indicate on the purchase order that we want yes or no. So if we don't need to print one because we're emailing, we can set that to no. In order for the email setup to work, we also have to have the email option set up for you as the payer. So under File and Preferences and Email Setup, we're going to click on Email Setup, and either on the application, we need to have this information filled in. And if you need help with doing that email setup, you can refer to another video we have for the preferences of email setup. You can also click this little question mark down in the lower right. It gives you a description of each one of these fields. And if you're not sure about what to fill in those fields, you might need to talk to your internet provider to help you with that. But in this screen, you would put your email address and then click Test to indicate that the email is working on your end. It will send you an email back verifying that this information is correct for your particular situation. And then you want to save that. Also in this particular form, if we go down, there is a purchase order, and we can indicate in the purchase order what we want for a subject and message, and that will default. We don't have to fill that in all the time. Then when we do a purchase order, that would be in this particular default, and a form that you might be using for doing your purchase order. And you would save that, and now you are set up. So the next time you did a purchase order to All Power Equipment, it would be ready to send an email and attach that document.